Earlier, I had a chat with Nato Oosthuizen, who is a partner and renewable energy expert at BDO. I started by asking him whether finding alternative decentralized sources of power improves power supply.
From my side, I can't see why not. I mean, at this point, I think it's clear that, especially in South Africa, that there's a supply issue, and that any source of demand would increase the additional pressure on supply. And in any form that the private sector or IPPs can provide this additional power to the grid and to the users, this will be able to sustain what is required.
Historically, high costs have always been an issue. How can this be managed?
I think the high cost of renewable energy must be seen in context where it started in South Africa and the African continent as a whole. When an industry starts developing, the whole perception of risk and reward is quite high. So when you need capital investment, usually that capital comes at a higher cost, whether that now be equity investors or whether that be institutional investors that will require interest rate with a credit margin. So that one element needs to be taken into account where we are today and where we were, as well as skills and the lack thereof in certain areas.
How long will this take, knowing that the need for power is urgent and that this may take a long turnaround, the decentralization of power?
I think that is quite a challenge, and especially in South Africa, what we see is that there's actually two games at play here. We've got a private sector that's willing to engage into a renewable energy sector and looking to invest and develop a new market of power supply. But then you've got the government that kind of controls the process. And although I do understand that bureaucracy and red tape is required for controls and process, I do think that at some point, if those controls and processes are hindering the effective and efficient implementation of the solution, that those processes and controls need to maybe be reviewed.
What role can sustainable and green IPPs play in this instance?
I think the first thing that I would advise is that they just keep on doing what they're doing. What I see in both South Africa and in Africa, that there's a lot of private investors either going to commercial parties or to the government looking to provide solutions for energy shortage and looking to be the lead by example and take that responsibility on them.